in flying, you still have to have number of hours you've flown physically for you to be certified. If you like do 10,000 hours of simulation, it's good because that's taught you.
That's the theory aspect of it.
Yeah, but when
The
you are
practical.
up and all the turbulence starts, or something just changes, or earthquake happened while you're
So,
passing,
what are you applying?
what are you exactly? That's where the experience
Yeah,
comes
it's
in,
good. It's
right?
good. And look, yeah, I think we've talked much about the career and what you've been able to do over the years. But if we had to look at your journey from Nigeria, because it started from Nigeria, I kept telling people it's not necessary. It's not everybody that will travel out of the country or wherever you find yourself. I'm talking about your country as where you were born, when you were born. You can as well become whatever you want to become where you are. But when you look at your journey, I'm sure something actually led you to move out of the country. I think I can say when you traveled to South Africa, you worked there, UK, and some other countries like that. Something was led to that. How were you able to, because you're married to somebody, and how were you able to manage the two? Taking your husband at the same time, your husband decide, okay, we are doing this together. How are you able to? So in terms of married decision,
Yeah, that was tricky, I would say. At the beginning, my husband said, "Oh, I don't want to be the one to spoil your career. If your career is carrying you there, it's fine. You can go. I will do my own thing." Okay. And I was looking at him. Okay, fine. And then I rejected the offer. So I got the offer, like the South African one. It came from my company, and they said, "See, it goes back to this growth mindset." I started my role as just Nigeria, but Nigeria became too small for me. So they said, okay, no, add Ghana because then at least you can expand, you can learn more. Okay. And then after less than a year, actually, they said, actually, you know what, add East Africa. So I added Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda because Nigeria and Ghana became too small for me. By the time I finished the analysis, I actually would tell my boss, you know what, I'm actually bored.
So I want more.
I'm bored, And then so I started going to Kenya and learning about the consumers there and doing a lot of feasibility report for Kenya. So Kenya was added. So East Africa was added. Okay. That was becoming quite, at least tasking
challenging.
And challenging. And then I was working on some categories. And then after a while, I told my boss, the only thing that's going to make sense is a sub-Saharan view. And my boss was like, you may be right, but let's see. And then luckily an opportunity opened and they said, okay, that was 18 months later. They said, okay, maybe you should have South Africa to your view.
Between just 18 months?
Yeah, it was within 18 months I started the company that I got the offer.
All those?
Yes, it was within 18 months. And they said, okay, maybe you should do Sub-Sahara. You go to South Africa. I went to South Africa a couple of times. I liked it. And they said, okay, probably it's going to be easier if you are based there because traveling from South Africa is actually easier than traveling from Nigeria. I said, wow, why not? And it was around the time I was going to get married. So I told my husband, there's this. And he said, yeah, you can go. It's not a problem. I have my business. I have this. I have that. I said, okay. Then after a month, I came back and I said, oh, it's fine. I've rejected the offer. I said, no, why? But why did you reject it? I said, just because it doesn't make sense. I can't be a newly married wife and then I'm in another country. It just doesn't make sense to me. So it's not a problem. There's still job in Nigeria because there was still job in Nigeria. I don't have to take the South African role, it's nice, but I don't have to take it. And I already told my HR too, I'm not taking it. He said, well, I said, yeah, I'm getting married. I'm not going to take it. He said, okay, it's your choice. And I think another 1 month or two passed, and then my husband was like, okay, no, you're going to take it. It's going to be on my conscience. I'm not and it was fine. And with that, the company also said it's fine. What is it doing? Can you also do the same thing in South Africa? And they kind of checked how they could support so that he could continue his own career too in South Africa, and it kind of worked nicely. So I think that was how.
But that's very interesting. That means, number one, from you're looking at you are not taking that decision alone. You are trying to find a way where your spouse, your husband, has to be in the know. Yes. And thank God that he himself now realized that I don't want to be the one blocking your. So that gives and a kind of idea that how men should start behaving and even thinking in supporting their wives. So I think
I hope so.
there's a credit to Mr. Okoye for that.
I have to say so.
Because
As much as I don't like to say it, I have to say so. There's
yeah,
a big credit for him.
a big credit for him. And when you look at it now, you're a Yoruba woman married to some people. They find it very difficult too, because me, I've seen, the kind of cross cultural kind of marriage like that, and I've seen it very lovely. So if you are to your experience in that, so if you had to say much about that from our background, and then how do you what would you want to say? In that, maybe some people are looking at, I'm a Yoruba man or I'm an Igbo person. How do I go and marry and stuff like that? So because that's something you can learn from.
Say it,
Your experience.
in this context, at least for me, the tribe was irrelevant. It was the human being, right? And I think human beings will be human beings regardless of the tribe, or in spite of the tribe, right? And there was him, of course, but then I was more curious about my in-laws. Because you don't marry the man, you marry the whole
family.
Basically, you marry the whole community. So I was more curious about my in-laws. I was more curious about their ideologies. I was more curious, honestly, about them. So I spent quite a bit of time with my father-in-law then, of blessed memory. I would make an effort to visit him, because he and my husband were not living far from each other. So I would try and make sure that wherever, when he's around, that's when I go visiting. I mean, we're still dating then, so that I will see him. So it used to look like I was seeing him by mistake, But of course, when I see him, I didn't have a choice, right? I have to talk to him, or he has to talk to me. So that's kind of how I learned his own mindsets. It doesn't matter what my husband was saying, but at least I was able to learn his mindset. I was able to learn how he considers his own children. Luckily for me, his grandmother was an Ijebu woman. So he at least understood some Yoruba. He could speak better Yoruba than me even. Yeah, but it was in my getting to know him that I felt comfortable more and more with the family. And I think that helped, because like I said, it's not about the tribe, it's about the human beings, If Yoruba will also not work if they don't want it to work. Yeah. It's always going to be the human beings. Yeah. Even people in the same village, it may not work. Yeah. If they're not human beings that can live together, or human beings that have accepted that, we are two independent people that are becoming dependent. Dependency is very hard, You're independent. I mean, I think of myself, I'm a career woman, I take a lot of company decisions. Then all of a sudden I'm supposed to get home, I'm still be feeling dependent. I'm like, how does that work? But it's kind of like, if you can get that middle ground of knowing that the point is the two of you become dependent and vulnerable with each other, then I think we should be fine. But like I said, for me, it's not about tribe.
It's not about tribe.
Yeah, it's about human beings.
So for our audience now, when it comes to taking that kind of decision, they should not look at the tribe aspect of it. Because sometimes it gets to their head, and they are not actually getting into how to navigate through that kind of process.
The first issue is the human beings. Then if the human beings now work, you can now start saying, okay, is there something about them? Is there something about their background or about their ancestors? But that one for me is part two, because if the family is fine, if the guy is fine, and if their behaviors are fine, I mean, for me, I'm a Christian. If they are Christianly, if they are grounded, at least that's your first call, right? You don't have to go to their village if you now say that the village people are the problem or something, so for me it's kind of like, it's layers. But if you just start, the tribe is big. If you start with the tribe, that's a generalist mindset. Because the tribe is a combination of different human beings that has been mixed together. It's like a pot of stew. There's too many ingredients inside the pot of stew. At least in typical Nigerian stew, the ingredient list is very long.
I remember that some of these francophone, when they see us, like, how come we have different kind of things?
Exactly.
They see it as these people are enjoying it.
Exactly.
If they want to cook, they want to use it. They have to cook. If it is fish, they want to use.
It's fish. Exactly.
They are. But we
but
like
you
to
see what I mean. So it's really like that. So if you see it as that pot of stew, because it's now you now say, oh, is the meat I don't like, but the meat is a tiny fraction of the
of the
whole
whole
pot.
but yeah.
So if you say I don't like the stew, what don't you like about this? Is it the taste of the stew? Is it because there's fish? Oh, okay, I don't like fish. So the smell of fish. Do you know what I mean? So that's why using the tribe, you're actually commonizing, and you're probably missing out also.
So, just another question I would like to ask, because I know there's no how. Looking at your career path, and also in terms of your marriage and all that, I know there are some decisions you took then, and is it that it comes so easy for you to, in terms of your career, because there's challenges. There's nothing you want to tell me that you don't have those kind of here and there, where you find, how do I take this, how do I actually take the decision? You have to be decisive in doing that. How were you able to get those one done? At least for our audience to actually learn from your experience
So
on
it
how to.
wasn't all roses and all. So from a career point of view, 'cause there were times I had to pause. So there were times I slowed down. You know, having kids, for example, I always say you have different roles and you can't do more than 5 roles at a point in time. So the times I was raising the children when they were really young, I was not ambitious at all. But it was fine for me. I already put it as my 5-year goal. I knew I was going to raise the kids. I knew I was going to pause. I knew that I will not get promoted. In fact, I did jobs that were like maybe 1 or 2 levels lower than my skill level. And I was fine with
Just to
it.
accommodate that.
Exactly, because I wanted to do jobs that I wasn't going to be processing. I wasn't going to think. There were jobs that I'm used to. It's easy for me to quickly do stuff. So it was more like simming. So I was just doing the simmering, when you're just warming the food. You're just keeping it warm. I didn't want to have a career break, but at the same time, I wasn't looking for career growth. And it's fine. And it didn't bother me, because I made up my mind that when the child has to be able to talk, report, say what is going on. So that is age 4 or 5. And so like my last one, once she was 4, I started looking for growth opportunities again. If I could get it in my current company, I would. If I couldn't, I was willing to go out to get it.